welcome to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Passon and I am a relationship expert, international speaker and best-selling author of the book Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news, TV in general, soaps or on social media, the perception given to people is, in my opinion, wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories and listen to what real people think, do and go through, as opposed to watching and creating expectations of something that doesn't really exist. I don't always agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. When you talk about relationships, it isn't just romantic relationships or the obvious, relationships within a family or with work colleagues. The most important relationship that we can have is the one that we have with ourselves. And today we've got Cathy, who is going to talk to us about anxiety. Hi, Cathy.
Hi.
Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Cathy, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm married to Pete, got one son called Tim. I work part-time as a primary school teacher, and the rest of the time I do stuff around the house and prepare my school lessons and things like that, and importantly meet up with my friends for coffee.
Fair enough. So tell me, when did you start suffering from anxiety?
That's quite a challenging question, really, because I first remember feeling really ill from anxiety when I went to secondary school.
Okay.
And that's the first time I ever sort of realised that I was anxious. But looking back on things like exams, those sort of pressure things, they used to make me anxious as well.
So when you say you were ill, what do you mean by that? What were the...
I felt sick. I felt like I didn't want to be there. Just generally unwell.
And so this was a secondary school. Was there something going on there? Did you not have many friends, or did you have an issue there? Or
I did have friends, but probably not that many friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt really out of place at secondary school.
Okay.
Didn't like it at all.
Okay. And now, obviously, a few years on,
Yeah.
How does it manifest in everyday life?
What, being anxious?
Yeah.
There's things I get worked up about, worried about that I don't really need to. Anxious about certain things, maybe making a phone call, something like that. Anxious about meeting up with people, that kind of thing. Loads of things, but
nothing in particular, as it were.
Can't think of any more examples at the moment.
Do you think it is because of being out of your comfort zone, or is it habit even, or is it because it's something you really don't want to do, and if you could just give it to someone else because you hate doing it?
It's probably a mixture of all three, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some things that, out of my comfort zone I don't want to do, so I get very anxious about. And like you say, some things you just don't want to do it. It is very much kind of a mixture of everything.
And once you've done those things, do you actually feel better? I mean, obviously you're not anxious anymore, but what I'm trying to say, do you get a sense of achievement or pride or?
It depends. Sometimes I end up feeling like even more anxious because I feel like I haven't done it very well. Other times I will be very relieved, and get a sense of achievement, like you say, like, yes, I did that and I've overcome that and I know I can do it now, that kind of thing.
Which I guess is what will happen when this is over.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
You're quite right.
By the way. What do you think you could do about it, if anything? Have you tried to do stuff about it? Do you know what causes it?
I've tried various things for sort of anxiety. So medication, I've tried different sorts of counselling. I have tried a number of things.
Mm-hmm. But obviously that hasn't quite worked.
No.
So when you say counselling, so you have thought of seeking professional help, you have done that.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes it works for a bit and then it doesn't after a while, but other times it doesn't really make a lot of difference. It's depended.
so tell us about your experience when you're having counselling. Do you sometimes think, oh God, I'm just going over the same stuff over and over again? What are you feeling as you're doing it?
Yeah, quite often it is the case of, oh, I've got to go through all that again and tell someone about it all. And oh my goodness me, you know, I really don't want to face going through it all again. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And how different would your life be if you didn't suffer from it?
That's a difficult one because you don't know what it would be like because you've got it. But on the other hand, I assume it would be a million times better.
What would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I just wouldn't be anxious about things. You just get on and do things and be much freer to do what you wanted, sort of thing.
And do you think that sometimes you, like for instance, you said about worrying about things. If I take my mother, I'm not going to say she likes to worry, but it's definitely a part of her personality. And I mean, she's a little bit too old now to change, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I also think it would not be her if she didn't worry, because it's so ingrained, and it's something, I think, to be fair, if she hasn't got anything to worry about, she will try and find something. Do you think there's maybe a part of that? Or, I mean, I'm not going to say you enjoy worrying about things, but do you think it's become a bit of a habit? Or
definitely, because if, as people said to me before, if I haven't got something to worry about, then I would make something up. However, I have just completed a course on trying, on worry and not worrying, and that has made a difference, and that has been beneficial to me. So it's definitely something that, my life needs to, how can I put it? I would benefit from not worrying, and my life would not be any less. In fact, it would be more if I didn't. Yeah,
and I think sometimes we feed energy towards something that we don't want or we worry about. And actually, there's no point, because you're probably making it bigger than what it is.
Yeah, it just goes round in a cycle, doesn't it? Round and round and round. And it's trying to step out of that cycle and realise that you don't have to worry about something.
Yeah. And do you get, you said when you were younger, you used to get physical effects of anxiety. Do you still get that?
Yes, but I more know what it is now. So
you recognise it straight away?
Yeah, you just kind of think, oh, that's being anxious, and you're just going to have to get on with it.
And have you ever suffered from panic attacks?
No, not panic attacks as such. I've had times when, I've been really sort of stressed about something and found it difficult to concentrate on what someone's telling me, or been really anxious about something, so I couldn't really focus on what they were saying, but not panic attacks, no.
And would you say, are you, for want of better words, honest about your anxiety? So will you tell people quite easily, or do you keep it very much to yourself?
It varies. It really varies.
Trust.
Sometimes I will let someone know. Yeah, it depends on knowing the person and the situation I find myself in. Yeah.
So for me, there's a couple of things here, so I hope I'm not going to lose my track too much. When I was younger, I suffered from anxiety, not that I knew at the time. If anything, I actually felt that I was probably feeding, as I said, my mum, worries a lot about stuff. And it was only when I was 37 and I started having proper, well, actually, no, I was a bit younger than that, panic attacks, which for me, and for anybody listening, take note, because if that's something that you're having, I know a few friends who never realised they had panic attacks, but sometimes it can just be like, your breathing starts changing and is very, very quick. But in my particular case, it feels like a heart attack. So it's chest pains, they radiate to the arms and to the jaw, and it feels like being punched in the chest and stabbed in the back. And if I don't act really, really quickly, it can last up to 6 hours. In fact, there was one particular time where, I generally thought maybe this time it isn't a panic attack and it's a bit more than that. But going back to my actual anxiety, I was suffering more and more, and it was actually around control. It was often that because I couldn't control the events and what was happening to me, and the way I was responding to them was not the best. And actually, that is when I started seeking help. And the chap I saw, who does pretty much the same as I do, and other bits, pointed it back to an event that happened when I was 12 years old. So I went back and had another session, and actually I was very, very angry towards the world and even myself for letting people, I'm not going to say take advantage necessarily, but that's how it felt at the time. And actually one day I woke up and it was starting to lift, and I realised that I'd had that crushing on my chest for 25 years and was none the wiser. It was just as it was going that I knew, oh my God, actually there was a very, very strong physical effect I was not aware of. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I personally feel there are different types of anxiety. And sometimes people can be quick to believe they are suffering when maybe it's something else. So for instance, I'd say what I had was real anxiety because there was nothing to pinpoint it. It was back in the past, a particular thing. I think because I know you, I believe, it's the same thing for you. And obviously your son has also had anxiety issues, which he could not even remember when it started before we worked with him. But other people are actually not addressing the real issue. So I have a couple of examples where, for instance, you're in a job and you're not very happy and you don't want to go in, and you've got a constant worry that you're going to do wrong, or what if someone says something. And to me that means that it's not real anxiety. You're not actually, the root cause, you're just not dealing with a problem. And to me that kind of anxiety is actually around control.
I can see what you mean.
What would you think?
I can see that there are different types of anxiety, and I can also see why people might get anxious in, say, a work situation. But it in that situation is partly because they have no control over what's happening, other than the fact they could move jobs, which perhaps isn't something they can do. So they just have to cope. I don't mean to belittle their anxiety, because for them it is real and it's 100% anxiety.
Yeah, but I think I agree. I think sometimes, we have a choice, and everything's based on decisions. We either make the decision to do something about it, or we make the decision to not to, and then we've got to deal with that. And sometimes by not making a decision and putting ourselves in a limbo state, it is by default a decision to do nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
And I think that, unfortunately, some people are just too scared. And don't get me wrong, change is scary. There are times where, for instance, you've been in a job for a long time and a new manager comes in and you're not getting on, and now your life is just not where it was. And you didn't want to leave that job. It wasn't part of the plan. But I think sometimes, as I said, for my own situations, events happen to us. It's how we respond. And in my particular case, I let it overwhelm me at the time. It was at the beginning of starting a business. I just, I was scared. There was all these things. I didn't really know how to react. But I think this is why we are having this conversation too, is to inspire people to look at their lives and see, actually, what can I change? Have I got control over this in some way?
Yeah, that is true, because it does depend on how you as a person react to whatever that situation is. And you do have, once you recognise you have a choice as to how you react, then that will make a difference. But in the first instance, sometimes you maybe just react with anxiety, because that's like your automatic response. But once you can pinpoint, well, I could do this, 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 or this, then I think, you can then have a choice as to how you react, so you can change what's going on.
And I think there's also an element of quite literally doing the ostrich and putting your head in the sand, because all you want is for things to go back to what they were, but unfortunately
they're not going to, are they? No. And certainly people do that, and then it's once they realise that that's not going to actually help at all, that then they start to think, oh well, what can I do, or what could be done to change this?
And I think another one that really is towards that, and I know you have heard me in a different context mentioned this, is that gut instinct and trusting it, and your head versus heart. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, before I kind of met you, I never really thought about the guts and instinct before, but no, 100%, because looking back on things in the past, I've had things like my guts have told me to do something or not do it, and I haven't really recognized that and acted on that. But I think you're quite right. You know, you sometimes you do just know inside what is the choice, if you like, that you've got to take over something. Yeah, definitely.
But I think the issue is that most people will hear and listen to the paranoia. So that voice that we say, you know, all the things like, oh, you know, it's not really starts with you should, you ought to.
Yeah, and, definitely.
You know, it's stuff that you don't actually want to do most of the time. And they listen to that, but they won't listen to the voice that say, oh, it'd be really nice to do this.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? How we'll go one way, but we won't go the other. But
we're so harsh on each other. Oh, not each other, sorry, on ourselves, because I think we wouldn't talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves half the time.
No, we wouldn't be as hard on other. We would say to other people, "Oh, you're being hard on yourself," or you know, or you wouldn't be as hard on someone as you are being on yourself. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think the another point I want to make is, for me, anxiety is also around self-acceptance.
Self-acceptance, yes.
Once you accept yourself, a lot of that anxiety not so much lifts, but it certainly contributes.
You're sort of just accepting who you are and what you are, will stop you being anxious about who you think you are.
Or sometimes, because one of the things I see a lot in adults suffering with anxiety is that they don't know who they are.
Yes, I would agree with that as well, yeah.
Because they are everything to everybody else, the wives, husband, kids, colleagues, parents, family in general, neighbours, and what everybody wants them to do and be, but they forget what they want.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So what would you say to someone who doesn't suffer from anxiety, who maybe does not understand what you go through?
Be prepared to listen if someone says that they're anxious about something, and don't just go, how can you possibly be anxious about that? Because we've all got things that we're perhaps scared of or have almost like phobias about, and other people, they're not logical. None of these things are logical, and other people can't. You know, someone might say, well, I'm scared of spiders, and other people will go, well, why? What are you scared of spiders for? You know, so to one person, it is real, that anxiety. And, you know, don't belittle what they're going through, but just try and support them and help them through it. And it doesn't mean they don't have to go through and do something. It just means you're going to help them to get through it.
And I think people need to remember, I really struggled when I was introduced to this concept, which is that you create your own reality. But the brain actually can't take in everything that it sees per second, and we will only see actually what we want to see because of our upbringing, belief system, value system. And so sometimes, as you say, you know, what someone finds so scary, someone thinks, why is that? You know? And my point is, if you're listening and sometimes you do wonder why people are so anxious, maybe ask yourself if you're being a little bit judgmental, or if it is what society kinds of believe that you shouldn't be scared of that, or you should do this, that, or the other. Actually, is that true? Who determines what anyone should or shouldn't do?
Yeah, definitely. You know, being judgmental is one of the things that people often are about other people's anxieties. Definitely.
Do you think you've suffered from people maybe judging you?
Yeah. I would think so. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because you kind of like, sometimes you just imagine what they're thinking of you. But yeah, I'm sure.
Or
do you? But then if you've got an anxious kind of personality, yes, you probably do. Yeah.
But that is also probably paranoia.
Yeah. Again, it's not a positive thing in any stretch of the imagination. No, definitely not. But yes, you know, people will judge you because, you know, you can't do that. You know, you've made a mess of that. You know, so yeah, they definitely will judge you.
And I think the other thing, although no, forget that because I've completely lost my train of thought here. Never mind. But I think, just judgment is something we all do. And, I think it doesn't matter how much personal development or whatever stuff you do. That's just the way we are. That's just the way our brain works to protect us from everything. But we need reminding on a regular basis to not judge others, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And also, I think, what was that? I was going to say, this is it, perception. That's what I was going to talk about. How sometimes when we were saying about, we think we know what someone's thinking about us.
Yes. But are they?
Yeah, but are they? But sometimes we do get a perception. And actually, we go back to that gut instincts versus paranoia.
Yeah.
Because I think we do know there are so many non-verbal clues in their body language, in their eyes, in the tone of their voice, that actually we can guess a lot of the time without being paranoid. But I think that the anxious person, so the anxious Sophie, for instance, of a few years ago, in my 20s certainly, what I would want to do, if that was the case, I would want to prove that person wrong. And I probably would wind them up even more.
Yeah, because you just keep on about it.
Yeah. Where actually, to help with the anxiety, you've got to accept that you're not going to please everyone and you need to walk away sometimes.
Yeah, it's easier. Yeah, you've just got to say, no, I can't please everyone all the time, and just leave it. Don't go back over and over it. Yeah,
and definitely. I think that goes back to self-acceptance again, because once you do accept yourself, you're not so worried about that. You don't want everybody to like you, like when you're 20.
Yeah, that's true.
So what advice would you give someone who is suffering from anxiety in silence?
Don't suffer in silence. I would say, try and find someone to talk to about it, maybe get some professional help with it. And just use whatever methods you can. There's plenty of stuff around about anxiety, even if you can't find someone to chat to about it.
Right, Cathy, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know that you are starting to address the anxiety. So maybe once you have, it'd be nice to have you back and find out what it's like to live without it.
A new person,
that'd be cool. Yes. So thank you so much. And for everybody listening, if you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe and leave us a review. And more importantly, come back next week. Thank you so much.